Yeah.
But this one rides like can I say it's a carbon killer? Can I say it's a carbon killer?
You're gonna cause a lot of stir by saying that.
Yeah. It's
okay.
like at this point, like I don't see why you. Here's the thing: a high-end aluminium frame is gonna ride better than a low-end carbon frame, right? And then a high-end carbon frame, like I'm just gonna give the S-Works SL7, I think will ride better than an Allez Sprint, but a specialized SL7 may ride the same as a specialized Allez Sprint.
Welcome back to another podcast. I'm here in Malaysia, second episode. I am very lucky to be here at the Gruppetto. I've got a couple of guys who help me. I need to give credit to Zami and Nabil for coming, and thank you so much, Izzat.
No problem.
The That Muslim cyclist on Instagram, very popular here in Malaysia.
Yeah, I guess so.
Thanks for replying to my DM, by the way.
It's okay. I'm more than happy. I've been watching your content.
Thank you so much.
Good.
Your bike actually changed colors because when I first got the bike, it was actually the other original Plutonium. What's the color? The silver one?
I don't know. What do you call it? Pinarello calls it Plutonium Flash.
But you cannot steal that name already, lah.
No. What do you call it?
The silver.
Neptunian Flash is not. Plutonium Fast.
Right.
I don't know.
And
maybe.
we've got this one. So we'll be talking about your bike, and but before we go there, as like in all my interviews, I always want to get to know the rider first.
Okay.
And to my viewers who don't know who you are, so
right.
give us a bit of introduction, man.
Okay. So first of all, welcome to Malaysia. I mean, you are Malaysian. Anyway,
Malaysian,
right?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome back home.
Welcome back home. Yeah. Balik kampung for Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
So, and then to you and to all the viewers, welcome to Gruppetto. It's a cycling clubhouse. I'll just introduce the place first. It's a cycling clubhouse that focuses on encouraging people to ride bikes and embracing active lifestyle. That's the whole idea. Like, ride because you want to enjoy riding on two wheels. Ride because you want to be in a better version of yourself. Ride because you want to be healthier. Ride because you want to be present for your family members. That's our goal here in the Gruppetto Cycling Clubhouse, Gruppetto Cycling and Sports Clubhouse, I should say, and we are together with a propane next door. We can take you on a tour after this.
Yes.
You guys will have to come here to go on a tour. We'll give him a free tour. So it's a sports rehab, which shares the same idea. So the whole idea of these two ventures, Gruppetto and Propane, is to encourage people to embrace active lifestyle, and that's why we established this place here, right? And a little bit of background about myself. I guess we just start with when I started cycling. I guess so. I was really into basketball. Would you believe it? I played for uni and everything back then when I was in Australia. And sorry for the thick Australian accents. I'm going to talk about why. So I was there for very long years, and for 8 years. So I was 8 years in Australia. I was playing basketball as well when I was in uni. But then, because I already had done surgery for both of my knees, right? Meniscal tear. For those of you that know, it's basically like a shock absorber in between your knees, basically torn, and then that just sort of like, I'm 22 and I'm thinking like, I've got many years to go to use my knees, right? So now I have to switch sports, and that's when cycling came into the picture, which was 2015 when I actually take up cycling as a sport, rather than back then it was more for like commuting purpose from uni to home to uni. 2015 is when I started to take up cycling as a sport. I started enjoying it, and I started have a particular interest on the technical side of things, meaning the bicycle. Which then brought me to do a bicycle mechanic course over there in Australia. And then from there, I started become a bicycle mechanic. I started following a continental level team to become a so-called pro mechanic for a professional team. I raced domestically over there in Australia. And then COVID happened. I didn't have the means of staying. I came back and continue on my career as a bicycle mechanic. And then obviously you see you like deep down inside, like obviously mechanic is what I do as a career, but what I'm passionate about is get people on bikes, right? You see what cycling have changed many people. I mean, it changed my life, right? From being something that I do as a means of being healthy and also as a means of career. And I want it to be a positive change for other people as well. So how do I describe my job now? Like, I'm not a professional cyclist per se, but I guess me and my partner in crime here, Zame, we are, how do we describe ourselves? Professional cyclist activists. Yeah, professional cyclist activist. Yeah, that's my job now.
It was very interesting, man. I didn't know you were a pro mechanic, that you were working for a continental team.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with Nero show.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was their mechanic.
Oh.
Yeah, so
wow.
Chris Miller, Jesse Coyle, yeah, I was their mechanic.
So wow. So how's it like, being a mechanic for these guys?
Obviously we weren't like big budget teams, so you kind of, I think what I've learned a lot from there is like how to make ends meet when you don't have enough stuff, right? And then it's good because obviously they are high performance people. They demand a lot from their bike day to day, and like their bikes are literally, you literally have to do a basic or standard service if you're on like a short term pretty much every race, right? The bikes get trashed because they literally they don't care about holes. They just ride through them, right?
Yeah.
So things gets loose, headset gets loose, bolts gets loose. They literally have to check them.
Yeah.
And then they're really, because like obviously we weren't like a favorite in so I think 2019 we went to Tour Philippines. We entered the Tour Philippines as a wildcard entry because a team pulled out. We managed to win 2 out of 5 stages for being a wildcard entry team, so that was a win. So that was huge for me to be part of that team. And yeah, it was good. Like trying to be, you're the first one to wake up, make sure to pump the tires up. Cause back then it was still rim brake tubular tires. So you have to pump first thing in the morning to dial the tire pressure, and then you know when things happens or whatever, you're the last one to go to bed. Yeah. So it's hard work, but it's like it really feels really good to see that you've looked after the equipment side of things, and all the riders have to do is focus on riding.
So you're the perfect person to talk about your bike and everything because you are quite knowledgeable. You are like a mechanic. Yeah. And I'll probably grill you about your bike and the decisions behind that.
That's what I've come to know you about.
So shall we just talk about the bike first? And then
let's go. Let's
talk about other things. So okay, here is a Allez Sprint size 49. Yep. I always like to start off as in how did you get to find the right bike size? And obviously the biggest question is why the Allez Sprint and aluminium frame? Why not a carbon frame? Okay. And what's the decision behind all this?
All right. So how do I come about to get the right size? Obviously from, well, you start off as, cycling can be quite expensive, right? I mean, we've all come to know it, but then obviously to make it accessible, you kind of have to go through whatever. Obviously, it didn't start it off as the right size bike. I didn't know I have to ride the smallest size bike back then. But then you've come to know from being in the community, right? The cycling community. Sometimes it can be quite toxic, but there's a lot of good community out there. They were the ones that sort of got me to understand. It was basically my whole experience in Australia has been pretty good with the right community, thankfully. So obviously, and then you go to the size chart and everything, and you have experience of a good bike shop can normally a good bike shop that understands a little bit about basic bike fitting can recommend you what's the right sizing, because obviously height is only one metric of determining the right size. Like I've got a friend that is probably not even 6 foot, right? He rides a 58 centimeter frame because he have long limbs, like super short torso, but has super like massive wingspan and super long legs, right? He's probably like 175 or something, but he rides a 58 centimeter size frame, right? Because you have long limbs and stuff. But if you go to like a decent bike shop that does a lot of like measuring and basic stuff, that you can probably get the right size bike. Otherwise, like a lot of bike fitters, I'm not sure how it is in Singapore, but here I would plug my favorite bike fitter here in KL is Vo2 Max in Bukit Jalil. I'm sure you're familiar with him, Patrick. So he's really good with bike sizing. So yeah, I can always go to them as sort of to eliminate the guessing game. You know, like especially these days, things are coming with like integrated stems and handlebars, which you kind of have to get it right when you first buy it, right? Otherwise, it's going to be too expensive to change it. So that's how I've come about to find the right size, and I've come to find that I'm quite a short leg, long torso. We're going to talk about the setup as well after this.
Yeah.
And then what was the next question?
Why the Allez Sprint?
The Allez Sprint. Okay, so here's the thing. To be honest, I was waiting on an SL7. The true story. Okay, so I was waiting on SL7 to arrive. Already put it on order, and then I was building when Allez Sprint came out. Right, I was building an Allez Sprint, building it up. So I built it. It was a customer's bike back then when I was working at the Bike Artisans. So Jeff was my previous employer. I worked with him 3 years when I came back after COVID. So anyway, so built an Allez Sprint. It came with Ultegra Di2 11 speed, ENVE cockpits and ENVE wheels. I took it for a quick spin, you know. It's a thing that I do personally. I build it up and I test ride it just to make sure that it's all good and running well. So, you know, because it's a crit bike. So I want to see if it really lived by its name, right? So I was leaning it into this corner. It's like a 4-corner place that I normally test a bike whenever I finish a service in Bike Artisan, right? So I take this corner, hot, lean it in, and then it was an ENVE 5.6.
Oh, right? That's the one that I have, man.
Yeah. ENVE 5.6. It can be quite heavy, right?
Yes.
With Chris King hubs.
Exact setup as mine.
Yeah. So it's an ENVE. It's not the AR. It's the ENVE aero wheels. Yeah, the SES. So coming in hot, and then like it goes straight out of the corner. Like you kick it straight out of the corner. It's like, oh, I gotta get one of these, man. I gotta get one of these.
Yeah.
So that's when like I tell them, hey, can I cancel that SL7 and get the Allez Sprint instead? Right? Because it's just that how it rides, like off the corner, you sprint it. It's a very snappy bike for my type of riding. I do a lot of crits. I enjoy that sort of ride. That's when the Allez Sprint. Also, I find that like it rides smoother than my carbon bike at that time. It was an Orbea Orca Aero rim brake. It rides smoother than my Orbea Orca Aero. Even like recently, I'm not sure if you saw on Instagram, I test rode the S-Works Athos, and I don't know. I still think this aluminium frame, this Allez Sprint rides smoother than the S-Works Athos.
Is it because it's aluminium, or would any other brands besides the Specialized would have made any difference?
To be honest, I haven't ridden that many aluminium frame. Right, this is like after a while. Like I did ride an aluminium bike when I first started riding, and then it was carbon back then. I rode Orbea Orca Aero rim brake, and then I went to BMC Team Machine SLR01 rim brake as well. And then I went back to Orbea Orca Aero. And then after that, this is like the so-called the first modern aluminium frame that I've ridden.
Yeah.
It rides nice. Like I can't say for other brands. Like I know Standard brand pushes hard on aluminium and scandium frames.
Yeah.
I know there are other frame makers, like I don't know, I've heard this brand from America, Blackheart Bikes, pushes hard on metal frames like titanium and aluminium.
Yeah.
But this one rides like can I say it's a carbon killer? Can I say it's a carbon killer?
You're gonna cause a lot of stir by saying that.
It's
okay.
like I at this point, like I don't see why you. Here's the thing. a high-end aluminium frame is gonna ride better than a low-end carbon frame, right? And then a high-end carbon frame, like I'm just gonna give the S-Works SL7, I think will ride better than an Allez Sprint, but a specialized SL7 may ride the same as a specialized Allez Sprint.
So the Specialized and S-Works, I'm assuming the carbon grade it's 10 and 12R, right?
Yeah.
Do they still use
There's
the
a
same?
difference. Yeah,
Okay.
there is a difference, a legit difference. The difference is, the main difference actually is in the fork, the stiffness of the fork, right? So that's the main difference in 12R. So it made the ride feels snappy and stiffer. Yeah.
Can I confirm that everyone here is on Allez Sprint?
So he's on Allez Sprint.
Okay.
Irfan is on Roubaix SL8. That's
So why is
another
he not
good.
on Allez Sprint?
Because Roubaix is fast. Anyway, that's a different topic. The new Roubaix SL8.
Is that the one with the funny thing on the frame, the top tube?
It's this one here. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can see it. No, you can't see it. You gotta come here and see it. But anyway, it's comfortably fast. That's how I'm gonna put it. It's comfortably fast. The new Roubaix SL8.
Right.
Like when you sprint on it, it feels super stiff. But when you ride it, it's super smooth.
Right.
Yeah.
Seems like when I come back to Malaysia, the guys that I interview are all Specialized. You're on Specialized.
Yep.
Tomorrow's interview will be on Specialized.
I mean, like, I know there's a lot of, I know the marketing can get over the top. Like, oh, I'll save you 40 seconds for 40 kilometer an hour. Or this new Tarmac SL8 saves you 16 seconds, where the main savings coming from the handlebars, not really much on the frame. But I think Specialized just make... You can't go wrong with Specialized. It's not going to be like a crap ride if you buy a Specialized, right? I'm not plugging it because I ride a Specialized, but like they make good bikes, right? I mean, you're not going to get, like if you buy a Specialized, you're not going to get a crap experience, but the marketing can be over the top. I'm just going to say that, right? Yeah. It's just going to be like, really? Is it really that much stiffer?
So is it really?
Well, I wouldn't say that... like for a normal rider, you're probably not going to feel that it's going to save you 16 seconds over the SL7. But man, it rides well. It rides good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, this bike is shit.
Yeah, but when this bike was first launched, I think the biggest hate that people would say are the welds.
Yes.
Smart welds.
Smart weld.
But they don't
look so smart. They don't look so smart.
Yeah.
Memang tak smart.
Yeah. So what's up? I mean, are you bothered by the fact that these welds look like this?
Okay, so I think if you compare it to the previous Allez Sprint, right? It's not that different. It's the same, like, as though you pasted a chewing gum on the wheel. Like, right? Like if you look the old Allez Sprint, it's similar. But probably because, especially on the head tube, because it pulled back a little bit, right? Now it's a little bit kind of in your face. It's not where people expect to have weldings.
Yeah, right over here.
Yeah, like back then it's a little bit more forward, right? So people kind of expect to have welds there. I think that's my conclusion of why it feels like it's in your face kind of feel.
Yeah.
But then like, if that welding is what makes the bike rides this way, then I'm okay, I guess. I'm okay.
All right.
Right?
So which kind of rider suits the Allez Sprint?
Okay, so if you want to get, I think what sorts, if you're trying to get into high-end bikes, but you don't want to spend too much money, right? Because these rides, another hot take, better than most carbon bikes. It rides better than most carbon bikes.
Yeah.
Like I want to buy a new, I want to get into racing and I want to buy a carbon bike, right? But I want to buy a cheap carbon bike, but it's gonna cost the same as Allez Sprint. I'm like, no, get an Allez Sprint, right? Number one, it's aluminium. You're not gonna worry about it if you crash it. And it rides better than most carbon bikes.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And in fact, like if you're gonna go like integrated carbon disc, it's gonna weigh 8 kilos anyway.
So this is 8?
This is 8 kilos.
Okay.
Yeah, this is 8 kilos, whatever you see it with, including pedals.
Yeah.
8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk us through the accessories and what group set, wheels, etc. Why did you get them, and performance?
Okay, so these are, as you've mentioned, it's in a specialized Allez Sprint. Obviously, you've seen on the gram that it's different color. So basically, we swapped it with the new ones. Can I say I swapped it because of the color?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, so yeah.
I buy my bikes because of the
Yeah,
color.
it's the color. So something about the Allez Sprint, like it's the color, right? They make nice colors. So you ride it, it's kind of like you're taking the streets, kind of vibe, right? It's really fun to go on city rides with Allez Sprint. Like I really enjoy KL rides because like you go through traffics and stuff. It surges really well, surges really nice. It's very snappy, takes the corners really well. Basically, it has every SL7 rides feel to it. Except that when it goes really steep, obviously. SL7 is probably a 300 gram slider.
Yeah.
It really does make a difference when it goes really steep. We're going to go top to bottom. So saddle, Selle Italia SLR Boost carbon rails. These are the S1, I think. The narrowest one they have. It's 130 mm.
Okay.
Right? Because my bums are narrow.
How do you decide on the width of
Okay, so without going to a bike fitter, again, I plug my favorite bike fitter, Vo2 Max, because they do pressure mapping on saddles, so that way they can determine where you end up sitting. But I do find that when I go anything wider than 140, it kind of catches behind my thigh here.
Yeah.
Yeah, which then makes me creep forward and sitting on the narrower end of the saddle.
Do you get chafing as well?
Yeah. So at the back end. So I do realize when I go narrower and narrower, obviously you have friends and stuff that has narrower saddles. So I borrow it from them, the SLR Boost, and then it works. I do find like I sit nicely there because it's narrow and doesn't get in the way of my the back of my tires. So that's how I settle with it, right? But most of the times, it's where the saddle sits, right? If it's too high, it's not going to be comfortable. It's too low, it's going to be comfortable. Too forward, too backwards. Angle's not correct, it's going to be... Yeah, so 9 out of 10, you know, is because where the saddle is rather than the shape of the saddle, right? That's that. And then also the reason I use SLR Boost for this new one, because the previous one I was using Flight Boost. I was okay with that. And the reason I was using the SLR Boost, and I kid you not, it's my real reason, because it's 1 centimeter lower stack.
Right.
So I can bring my saddle up 1 centimeter.
But not many people talk about the stack. Like not many people realize about it. But I guess for you, because you wanted to raise the saddle a bit higher.
I want it to be higher.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then moving forward, I have Zipp SL Sprint stem. I've been riding this stem since 2017. Yeah, I've never moved back. I just like how the angle is. It's -12.
It's very chunky.
It's very chunky.
Yeah.
It's quite long. It's 130.
Okay.
And it's very stiff.
So this whole bike was bike fitted as well with Vo2 Max?
Yep.
Okay. So they recommended this exact geometry.
Yeah.
130 millimeter stem.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And group set, this is a Ultegra 12 speed.
Ultegra 12 speed. Yep.
Okay. Tell us about the goodies. I'm going to roast you about the OSPW later.
Okay. Okay. I have my reasons as well.
You being a bike mechanic, you should have legit reasons.
I didn't believe in it. All right. I was a non-believer.
Okay.
I'm a believer now. Okay. So 12 speed. Obviously. So it happened was I was running 11 speed, and then someone wanted the 11 speed group set. I'm like, yep, this is my chance to get a 12 speed. So that was the whole idea. And also the main reason, I wouldn't say that the 11 speed was not good. It was a brilliant group set, right? Even the mechanical group set is brilliant. 11 speed stuff, Shimano stuff. Basically, the reason I moved to 12 speed is the ergonomics of the hoods is what I really like, and also the Hyperglide Plus. When you literally can sprint and shift at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't get it like choking. And
yeah.
Okay.
That was the plus points, right? If you're trying to like create when it gets technical where the speeds die a little bit, you have to sprint out of the corner, so you can really dial in the gearings that fits your cadence.
Yeah. And
then you can literally sprint and shift, and you're not gonna have any issues of clunkiness or misshifts or that sort of stuff. And the ergonomics. Yeah.
And what's the ratio of the cassette and the chainring?
The chainrings, these are dual chainrings, so it's a 54-39.
Okay.
On this particular setup, if you go standard one's 54-40. 54-39, I'm running 165 millimeter cranks. chain rings, cassettes is 1134.
Okay, so why this specific ratio?
Okay, so this particular ratio is I want to be able to stay in the 54 for as long as possible.
Okay.
Right?
With a straight chain line.
Not so much of a straight chain line, because obviously you're going to have a, what do you call? Cross chaining. Yeah, cross chaining. But because I'm running a Silca super secret chain coating, so you're running a super high efficiency chain lubricant. So even when you're cross chaining, you're not going to have that much of a inefficiency because you're using higher quality lubrication. So that's why, like, if you're using like a normal average chain lubricant, you're going to have quite a high inefficiency, like watts lost when you're cross chaining. But if you're running super high efficiency chain lubricant, it's not so much of a cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the RD hanger.
Yeah.
What's this one? I've never seen it before.
Okay, so this is it's a new brand called Frames and Gear. So I kind of work closely with them as well. So they are, again, like, I think they're manufactured in China as well. But these direct hangers, it does improve the shifting. My friend Hizami has the same one as well. It really does improve the shifting because it gives more direct shifting. And these particular ones are lightweight, but these are not like some of the lightweight ones out there, because these have a bridge in the middle of the two pieces of aluminum, so it makes it a little bit stiffer than most brands out there. I think the famous one you probably know, CAAD, and a few other brands right out there. If you're using big cogs, I do find, especially when you ended up cross chaining, the rear driller is having problem to stay in that 34 tooth cog because it's not stiff enough. So
it tends to jump?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like no matter how you tune it, it becomes like the sounds like a tick. It's the annoying sound.
Yeah. So it's not because of tuning.
It's not because of the tuning.
Okay.
Yeah. I like that. Even the customer admits that they didn't have that problem when they use the standard hanger that comes with the frame. Yeah.
Okay. Before I roast you on OSPW, one more thing is why Rotor, a chainring, and the power meter that you have on?
Okay, so Rotor chainring, it's number one is aero. It's solid.
Aero?
It's a Rotor chainring. Yeah.
Okay. The fact that it covers most of the...
Yeah. So it covers most of the hole. I don't have the numbers of how much watt saving. I kind of like the look.
Yeah.
It's stiffer. So you notice it's stiffer when you crank on the pedals. It really does feel stiffer. Power meter is Uno. Favero Asioma Uno, single-sided. Ideally you have dual-sided, but it's more than enough. Like, I think dual-sided can get, if you're really data geek, you go into the dual-sided, but single-sided is sufficient for most people.
Why pedal-based instead of a spider power meter?
It's easy for me to swap.
Okay.
Swap around. That's the main reason.
You have a couple of bikes or?
Yeah.
Okay. So what other bikes do you currently have?
So it's not like I have a couple bikes. So you just end up needing to ride a different bike or test a different bike, or you're traveling, so you can just literally just bring the pedals. Yeah. Okay.
And let's get into it. OSPW, man. This is the SLF motion, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes. Why were you convinced to be a believer?
Okay. At first, I didn't believe it. Because back then Ceramicspeed, I'm just gonna say Ceramics because there was a new one, because it really does affect the shifting back then, right? Because they didn't get the ratio right, so the top pulley was too big, so you can't get the B tension gap proper enough, so it really does affect the shifting, especially if you get it right on the top. It's not so much at the bottom. If you get it right at the bottom, it isn't so much at the top. But as they progressed, they made shifting better and stuff. I won't say shifting better. Shifting is how it should be. But the biggest thing is from understanding of drivetrain friction, right? So the whole idea of the concept of oversized pulley wheels or bigger chain rings, to say bigger sprockets, is that when you have less bend, it's you have less friction, right? So that's the whole concept of oversized pulley wheels. And that's also because Shimano, for example, right? Shimano is very pro efficiency, unlike SRAM or even the new Campagnolo, right? SRAMs are into range, right? So that's why they have the 10-tooth cog, right? But Shimano, until today, does not subscribe to 10-tooth cog because the amount of inefficiency, watts loss from that 10-tooth cog, because it has to bend so much, right? It's too high. So Shimano's does not prescribe to that. So rather they make bigger chainrings and bigger cassettes. So like, so the 12-stick, they come up with 34 and 54, right? But SRAM and the new Campagnolo are focusing more on range. And I don't deny that they do have a lot of range, right? Big range. If you run like 50, 37, it's like you have 10, 33. So like 37 and 33, that's easiest than most gears. 50 and 10, that's bigger than most gears. It's almost like 50 and 10 is almost like 55, 11 or something, the rollout ratio. But here's the thing. To turn 54 and 10 requires a lot more watts than trying to turn 55, 11. Because there's less chain bend. The idea is, okay, for example, you're trying to undo a tire bolt, right? A tire bolt from your car, right? Let's say you have one person putting X amount of force, compared to you have 10 people putting X amount of force, right? So it becomes tenfold. So now you can undo the bolt. So same thing, right? You're putting the same amount of force. Now you have more number of teeth to push down the crank. Right. So
if that's the case, right, why don't all these group set manufacturers just have a bigger pulley wheel? Why do they leave it to third-party guys to do it? If that's
the question. That's a thing as well. Like, I'm not sure why that is the case. That has been my argument as well. Like, if it works, why don't they put it in the first place?
Unless it doesn't work.
Yeah, unless it doesn't work. So, but my argument would be like, okay, so here's the thing, right? Is it a bang for your buck upgrade? It's never. Like, oversized pulley wheels is never a bang for your buck upgrade, right? There's more bang for your buck upgrade, which is, for example, if you're running a Shimano, put your ace chains, right? Or probably spend on cleaning your chain, right? Spend on cleaning your chain, spend on high quality lubrication. But let's say you've done all of that. How else? So for example, if you're aiming for an Ironman, you're trying to save that last seconds, right? You've already optimized your chain line, you optimize your chain, you've optimized the lubrication that you've used. So where else can I optimize my drivetrain? That's when the oversized pull wheels comes in, right? But then if you're not maintaining on top of that, then it's useless. Yeah.
Then it kind of nets off and
it's just not savings anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Because then again, like you have to keep on top of maintaining it, right? Because they run like ceramic bearings and that sort of stuff, which runs on non-contact seal. All the stuff can get in. Like, I'm a mechanic, so
I'm a weekend rider, so for me, no point to upgrade lah.
But then again, it looks kind of good though.
Really? Does it really? I mean, it looks very bling.
Yeah, it is very bling, 100%.
But the question, why SLF and not any other brands like Ceramicspeed?
Okay, because so the real answer, that's what I have access to.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think to be really honest, the two brands that makes really good ones in terms of bearings and ratios would be Ceramicspeed and Kogel.
Ceramicspeed and Kogel.
Yeah, I think they kind of dial in terms of the ratios and the efficiency side of things.
Okay,
that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
I think lastly are the wheel sets and tires. You're telling me this is under they've given it to you for testing.
For test. Yeah.
What's the review like and tires choice and stuff like that?
Here's the thing. I've got nothing bad to say about the wheels. They're really good. They ride well. Good price point. I think they retail for like 6,000 to 7,000 Malaysian ringgit, which is, I think, if you're riding a bicycle, that's an affordable upgrade. Like, it's not expensive. It's not like nothing like a ENVE or like a Zipp Firecrash, which can goes up in pricing, but it's pretty good. I have no complaints about the ratchet system because they build their own hubs as well. They have a diamond ratchet, special ratchet system. My only complaint of this wheels is that sometimes some free hub body comes off really easy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, you want to change your tire, you end up having to do a free hub service because the hub comes off quite easy.
Right.
I don't know. That's probably why it gives that super smooth, despite high engagement. It gives that super smooth freewheeling. But yeah, other than that, it's a brilliant wheel set.
Is that a common problem with scope, or it's just your luck?
Maybe it's my luck. I'm just gonna say it's my luck.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it's my luck. Probably just this particular wheels because it's a demo wheels that they've the local distributor send me a pair to give it a test. I've got nothing bad to say other than that thing. It could be just my wheels.
Before this wheel sets, what were you running?
I am Roval Rapide CLX and Roval Alpinist CLX. These are my two wheels.
And how does these two compare?
Better wheels.
Okay, which one? The Roval?
If I had to choose like an everyday wheels, like a fun wheels to ride, Alpinist. The Alpinist CLX.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun wheels. It's not slow. I wouldn't say slow. Like you can still ride at decent speed, like 35, 40k an hour. It's still okay.
Yeah.
Right. It's when that you're trying to go above that, you do notice. Like we do have a segment here that's sort of like a downhill, but it's a pedaling downhill. I do notice that consistently that you kind of struggle to get that top speed compared to like Rapide CLX. Yeah. But Alpinist is just if you had to choose one wheels, especially if your bike's a little bit on the heavier end. Let's say if you have aero bikes, but you want something that is make the bikes a little bit lively. Yeah. Then Roval Alpinist is really good. Okay. Yeah, but you can't ride a trek and ride a Roval though. That's a sin. That's just wrong. Yeah, that's sin though. That's a sin.
Okay. And lastly on tires, why Vittoria? These are Corsa Pros.
Corsa Pros, yeah. Obviously they're not cheap. They're quite expensive, but I think you get what you pay for with this new Corsa Pros. I know people have issues with puncture protections and stuff with the previous Vittoria, and also the issues because it's a two-piece construction, right? It still is two-piece. The tire peels off from the cotton casing. Not anymore with these new products. They use a specific electric vulcanization, meaning that it feels like a one piece. Special vulcanization method that they've developed, and it rides super smooth. Right. Super supple.
And these are 28s.
These are 28s. Tubeless. I ride tubeless. Okay. Yeah.
And sorry, we just forgot about accessories as well. This mount.
Yeah.
It's a bit unique. Tell us about this one.
So these are frame and gears as well. So frame and gears. So these company makes some accessories as well, like all these. As you can see, I have a gold titanium bolts there as well. So that's from frame and gears as well. They make computer mounts. They make the rail hangers. They make I think end caps for the bar tape. They make clamps, different clamps for like different type of sequels where you need to switch the clamps. Like I know Bontrager's does have a different clamps, specialized. Not the new SL8, like the older ones have different clamps. Yeah. They do make accessories for that. So these are good because they have angle adjustment as well. They make a different range for different types of stems. If you're running ENVEs, they have options for ENVEs. If you run specialized stem, they have options. Right. Data, Vision Metron, Canyon integrated handlebars, they have options for a lot of these different stuff.
Cool. Yeah. I think we've covered most of it. And before we go on to the Instagram questions that you guys have submitted, give us an overall wrap up of the bike. Anything that I'd like to ask this question, anything that you wish was different? Any more upgrades?
Anything that I wish. These are purely probably from the aesthetic side of things. I wish they can do something about the welding.
Not so smart.
Not so smart. Again, like I'm accepting it because it gives the bike the right feels, right? The Luzio Smart Weld, it gives the right feel. It's smooth, it's stiff. Like especially getting out the corner, trying to get it back up to speed. It's superb, right? Like the sort of start and stop kind of rides, surgy rides. It's quite nice for me. If you are looking for a cheap, like you want to go into sport, you want a bike that is capable to get you into racing, this is the bike for it. Basically, who is this bike for? Number one, if you're looking into getting a race bike, right? As you can see, I've got my. Can I plug?
Yes,
again?
go ahead.
So I've got my Letap Desaru. I know some of you Singaporeans probably have been to these Letap. So I've got my green jersey using this Allez Sprint as well. So it's not a downgrade, right?
Yeah.
Like you got Pinarello, Dogma F Racing doing the Letap race category. Like I don't think it's a downgrade.
Yeah.
So if you need something that for racing, you want to get into racing, you want something that's not gonna crack because it's aluminium frame. This is a good bike. If you just want a good bike, I say good racy bike. It's the Allez Sprint.
Allez Sprint.
Yeah, and it's a carbon killer.
Carbon killer. Let's see what people have to say in the comments, man.
Yeah, it is a carbon killer.
Okay, we will just move on to the IG Q&A. The first question: how does this bike compare to a carbon bike for crit racing? I think you've briefly answered that. But,
It's as good. It's as good as most carbon bikes. In fact, it's better than some carbon bikes. I won't say all. I'm not gonna say all.
Yeah.
But obviously it's a great bike.
Okay.
For racing, for crit racing, it's a perfect bike.
Right.
It is a perfect bike for crit racing. So you get you when you crash, you probably wreck your components, but at least you're not gonna wreck the frame.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question is the SL8 or Allez Sprint if budget is not a concern.
Poof. That's $1 million questions.
We've got one there. Is that an SL8?
You know what? I've heard this from a friend in Australia, right? Justin Williams prefers to ride the Allez Sprint over the SL7 because of how the bike feels. Because the Allez Sprint feels like the Venge.
Yeah.
Right? When you sprint, it feels like the Venge. But then when the SL8 comes out, although he's sponsored by Factor now, but when the SL8 comes out, the SL8 reminds him of the Venge.
Right.
So I don't know. Budget's not an issue. Probably go the SL8 though.
SL8? You just said it's a carbon killer.
I mean, if the budget's not an issue, right?
So it's because of budget then?
Yeah, this is a budget option.
What's the price difference between,
Well, I feel like S-Works is probably like 3 times the price of the Allez Sprint.
3 times? Holy shit, that's expensive. Okay.
Yeah, 3 times the price of an Allez Sprint. I mean, like, I'll probably buy the Allez Sprint because I can get I'll probably buy the SLA because I can get the S-Works stickers.
Right.
That's probably it.
Okay, you can always get these
As a specialized, come on,
man. Okay. Next question is... hello, fellow Allez Sprint rider. I love my Allez, but I have 1 to 2 dislikes. What would yours be?
The what, sorry?
He has 1 to 2 dislikes about his Allez Sprint.
Okay.
What would your dislikes be? Besides, I think you mentioned the welds, right?
Yeah.
Anything else?
The only thing to be disliked about this, I think it's more of the mechanic side of things. It's not so much about the user experience. Number one, like if you the kind of person that likes to tinker with your bike, so because it's aluminium and carbon, so the seat post can get a bit tricky to adjust. If you changing saddles where it has different stack heights and stuff, it can be quite a pain in the butt to adjust the seat post because it's carbon aluminium and then stuff gets in there. It becomes really tricky to get the seat post out. So make sure I know most cases when it's aluminium and carbon seat posts, you would still use the carbon paste, but this particular ones, you just use grease, right? Just use grease.
Would it slip?
No, it won't slip.
Okay.
But just light grease so that it doesn't sort of bind up. Yeah.
Okay. So when do you use carbon paste and grease?
So normally, if you basically, general rule of thumb, if anything involves carbon, you use carbon paste.
Carbon and carbon.
Carbon and carbon or carbon and aluminum, anything that involves carbon, carbon paste.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this particular case, because the fitment is quite tight, so all you need is just light, thin grease so that it doesn't end up seizing.
But what happens if you put carbon paste on this?
It's just gonna be a 2-man job to pull out the seat post.
Because the tolerance is just really tight.
Yeah.
But at least you're assured that it will never slip.
Nope.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm 63 kilos, so it never slipped on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But other bikes, I'm not going to mention which ones. They have issues with seat post slipping.
Yeah.
What's the solution to that?
So normally the seat post solution are the wedge type seat posts, not the collet type seat posts. Right? So sometimes when you tighten it, the wedge are not completely in place. So what you kind of have to do is give the saddle or the seat post, actually, give it a bit of a wiggle.
Yeah.
To settle the, or even like whack, you know, the saddle, just give it a whack, right? So that the wedge stays in place. And then you will find that you can have at least another quarter turn to tighten it back up, right? So just do that. Yeah.
Should everyone have a torque wrench?
Well, if you're the kind of person that tinkers your bike, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
important to have a torque wrench.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Looks like a solid build. Which other bikes were you interested in, and why finally this one?
Ooh. This is $1 million question, right?
$1 million question.
What would I buy? Right. Okay. So the reason, the real reason I got this Allez Sprint is that, like, I guess I'm trying to show the people you don't need super expensive setup to get into competitive racing. That was the main reason, and also it rides really good.
Yeah.
For an aluminum frame, right? But again, like we're talking about, if I were to get a bike, a dream bike, right? To be honest, I never thought about it. I never really thought about it.
Will it be the SL8?
I think I would.
Yeah.
I think I would get the SL8. I think I kind of like the aesthetics.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to slam it though.
Slam it?
Yeah, because of that speed sniffer thing.
Speed sniffer.
Yeah, it kind of looks a little bit off if you have too much spaces.
This alloy frame, you need a lot of training to do very fast, right? Because it is not as stiff as carbon. Do you agree?
Depends.
Okay.
If you buy cheap aluminium ones, they're not. Again, right? Like, if you had to choose, here's the thing. If you had to choose between high-end aluminium bikes or a cheap carbon bike, go aluminium, high-end aluminium carbon bikes. I mean, Cannondale used to make really good aluminium carbon bikes. Like Cat 12, Cat 10, those Cat series used to be phenomenal carbon aluminium bikes.
Right.
Right? So if you had to choose from buying like let's say a cheap Super 6 Evo, like I don't know, the lower end ones, might as well buy a Cat series, like Cat 10 or Cat 12. They will ride so much better.
Right.
Same thing, for example, like Specialized. If you want to buy like a lower end, let's say SL6, because you think carbon will be stiffer and faster, might as well get an Allez Sprint.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really depends on what type of aluminium bike you ride and what type of carbon bike you ride. So in general, high-end aluminium bikes is always going to be better than lower end carbon bikes, but higher end like your S-Works, your Dogma, your what else, your Factor VAM, or all these higher tiers like the AMG or the M series of bikes, which will always be like marginally better.
Marginally, that's the keyword.
Yeah, marginally better. Like, as long as you're riding bikes, you're embracing active lifestyle, you're more than welcome here. Or if you're new into this stuff, we've got bikes here, right? We're lucky enough that Specialized was kind enough to give us a fleet of bikes to get people into riding. Yeah, right. So it's good that Specialized is not just about selling bikes. So they do have this stuff that they a niche, a part of them that, at the end of the day, we got to get people on bikes. Right. Yeah.
So go out there, ride your bikes, I guess.
100%. Doesn't matter what you do it for, whether you do it for competitive side of things, you're doing it because for health reason, really, just whatever reasons you're going out there for, as long as you're two wheels, you're good, man.
All right. Thank you so much, Izzat, for your time. And you guys can go and check out Gruppetto.
Come over, man.
On Instagram.
Come over.
And message Izzat if you have any questions about his bike, or you would like to ask him some questions that I cannot answer. And that's a wrap, man. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can't reach.